so real quick, we're going to talk about energy. Then we're going to talk about the metric system. Okay. We're going to talk about temperature scales and how to do those conversions. And so that's actually the first math problem we have, is how to convert temperature scales. Okay. So then we're going to cover um, the SI system or metric system. Okay. And how to do conversions there. And then we're going to talk about density and how to convert, how to use density to convert mass to volume and volume to mass. We're going to talk about significant figures because we're going to be using those all semester. And precision and accuracy, dimensional analysis, which is in our chapter 1 problems. And then finally, interpreting data. Okay, so we have a long way to go in this chapter. And we really haven't begun working math problems yet, which is why I haven't actually done any math problems. It's not that I'm not going to demonstrate the math problems. And so we have a lot of math problems here, but we're just getting to them. The math problems are in the latter part of the chapter. So I like to cover the material and then I will pick up with how to do the math. Okay, so I am going to demonstrate that. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense in my teaching style. It's not that I'm expecting you to learn how to do this math all by yourself. And if you're trying to want some practice with working these problems, you can get the blank PDF over here or PowerPoint, and you can just print it out and you can work these problems yourself. So the example problems are worked, but then the 4 practice problems are not. But I have the answers. I'm going to put the answers here. So what you can do is just work the problems and then compare it to the answer I give you, and you can see if you're getting the right answer on those. So if you want more practice, then I would recommend doing that. Also, there are more practice problems in the text if you purchased the text. And if you didn't, I can give you a link to an open source or OpenStax text that has all of the same material. So either way, we can get you connected with the information that you need, okay? So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense. Let me go ahead. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right. So energy is the capacity to do work, and we're just going to spend a little bit of time on this, kind of as an introduction to it. And again, in the beginning of this course, we introduce a lot of different topics to kind of give you some background on some things that we're going to talk about later. Okay. We're not actually, I don't think, working any math problems with work right now, but if you took physics, you've probably been exposed to this. Work is force over distance, or force times distance. So when you push a box across the floor or pedal your bicycle, you're actually doing work. And there are 3 different kinds of energy. Kinetic energy is associated with motion, moving objects. Potential energy is the energy associated with position or composition of an object. And thermal energy is the energy associated with temperature. So we're going to see all of these different types of energy in this course. And we're going to need to kind of understand what the different types are. Okay. So thermal energy is actually kinetic energy because it arises from the motion of individual atoms or molecules that make up an object. So if you put a block on top of a building or a weight on top of a building, it has potential energy because it's at a high elevation. And then if you knock it off, you're converting it to kinetic energy. And then when it hits the ground, it has basically given up all of its energy, and its energy is now at a lower state. So energy is always conserved in a physical or chemical change. It's neither created nor destroyed, and that's the law of conservation of energy. So for example, molecules in gasoline are a type of potential energy, and then as they're burned, they're converted to kinetic energy in the form of exhaust, which are they have more entropy, and that is the driving force for this reaction. So what type of energy is chemical energy? Kinetic, thermal, or potential. So you can put in the chat if you're still with me, A, B, or C. What do you think? And this chemical energy would be, say, the form of gasoline, or let's say fireworks. Okay, so we have a couple of different answers. So chemical energy. So we're talking about the energy in the bonds of the molecules in gasoline, or let's say firecrackers. And actually, that is potential energy before it's converted. Before the reaction occurs, it's potential energy. That's the chemical energy. Then, after it has been reacted, it actually becomes thermal and kinetic energy. So, actually, that would be potential energy. The potential energy in the energy in something like fireworks or gasoline is potential energy because it hasn't been converted yet. So that's probably where everybody was confused, is maybe you were thinking as it's being converted or after it's being converted, but we're talking about really before it's converted, it's potential energy. Okay, so the units of measurement, we're going to talk about the international system, um, the metric system. So the units of measurement for us is the metric system. So people say that the United States doesn't use the metric system, but in fact, we do use the metric system quite a bit, especially in science. The two most common unit systems are the English system and the metric system. Most of the world uses the metric system, but the United States has to be off by itself, and we still cling tightly to the English system for a lot of things. But our scientists generally use the metric system, okay? And the abbreviation stands for the System International d'Unité. So that's a French phrase, and I don't speak French. So, all right. So that's why it's called the SI system. So that's international system. All right. So the standard units for this system, or the base units, are meter, kilogram, second for time. So meter is length, kilogram is mass, second is time, Kelvin is temperature, moles is the amount of substance. That could be MOL or MOLE. We'll talk about that. Amp is for current, and candela is for light. Okay, so those are just the base or standard units. A meter is our measure of length. So a meter is slightly more than a yard. Okay, so it's about a yard. 1 meter is 1/10 millionth of the distance from the equator to the North Pole. And um, recently it has been redefined as this certain distance that light travels in a vacuum in this portion of a second, this 300 millionth of a second. All right, kilogram is the standard measure for mass, but the base unit for mass is a gram. So the standard unit is a kilogram. So if we're talking about measuring in standard units, we're going to use kilograms, but the base unit is in the gram. So as far as this course is concerned, we will tell you what units we want something to be expressed in, either gram or kilogram, something like that. A second common unit of mass is the gram, obviously. So the gram is actually the base unit. So 1 gram is 1/1000th of a kilogram. And we'll talk about that more in a minute. The weight of an object is a measure of its gravitational pull on its matter. So mass is the same no matter what planet you go to. So here on Earth or on the moon, the mass is the same. But weight has to do with gravitational pull. So you'll weigh less on the moon than you do on Earth due to the differences in gravity. But I tend to use weight and mass interchangeably, and I don't even mean to sometimes. So I do kind of make that mistake some. Um, because when I think of mass, I think of weight. And so I try not to, but I may say weight when I really mean mass. But essentially, they're interchangeable because we're not going to be going to the moon in this course, right? All right. So a second is a measure of time. So seconds are, the measure duration of an event. And this second has been defined as the time it takes for a specific number of radiation events of a specific transition from cesium-33. Now, what I was going to say about that was, I'm trying to get my screen to work better. It was kind of screwing up. That's why I did that. What I was going to say about that was, that the recently a lot of these base units have been redefined, and that is because we need to have a standard by which to measure them. So that is why the definition is held by this committee that handles these measurements. Okay, Kelvin is a measure of temperature. So Kelvin is the standard measure for temperature. We also use degrees Celsius because it actually, or centigrade, because it actually is the same distance between the units and you can easily convert from one to the other. So we use Kelvin because Kelvin doesn't have negative numbers, and 0 Kelvin is what we call absolute zero. It means that that's the lowest temperature anything could ever be. Okay. Um, so temperature is what we call thermal energy transfer, and we're going to talk about that later in this course. We're going to do some calculations from that. So thermal energy goes from hot objects to cold objects and not the other way. So cold is just the absence of heat, right? So the Kelvin scale, or the absolute scale, assigns 0 Kelvin to the coldest temperature possible. It isn't possible to get colder than absolute zero. So absolute zero is negative 273 Celsius, or as you see here, negative 459 Fahrenheit. That's the temperature at which molecular motion is assumed to stop. Lower temperatures do not exist. The coldest temperature on Earth is around 4 degrees Kelvin, and that is the temperature at which liquid helium exists. And we actually have some liquid helium in the lab, not in order to reach 4 degrees Kelvin just for fun, but because we actually have an instrument that requires it. And that instrument is very similar to an MRI that you would get a scan from a hospital with. It works on the same principle, but it's called a nuclear magnetic resonance spectrometer instead of magnetic resonance imaging. The original term was nuclear magnetic resonance, but when you use nuclear and you're talking about aiming it at somebody's head, it kind of freaks people out. So the hospitals call their thing an MRI instead of an NMR, but we call it an NMR. Anyway, and so this was developed by Anders Celsius. He developed the Celsius scale. And he did it in a very scientific way. He said he boiled some water and he said, "Hey, I'm going to mark my thermometer." So he made a thermometer, right? He boiled some water and he said, "Hey, I'm going to mark my thermometer at 100 here." And then he made some ice water and he said, "Hey, I'm going to mark my temperature at 0." And then he made equal gradations between the 0 and the 100. And that's the way the Celsius scale was developed. Now, the Fahrenheit scale, he made his thermometer before he thought about how to make his markings. And so he made his thermometer. He came up with, well, I think it'll freeze at 32 here. Yeah, I mean, he did the same thing, but he'd already made his gradations. And so he just marked them off. So that's why we have the Fahrenheit scale. Now, the Kelvin scale was taken from the Celsius scale, but then extrapolated back to 0. And I think we either talked about that last time or we're going to talk about it today. All right, so the Fahrenheit degree is 5/9 of a Celsius degree. So Celsius is equal to Fahrenheit minus 32 divided by 1.8, okay? Or Celsius is equal to Fahrenheit minus 32 times 5/9. So either multiplying times 5/9 or dividing by 1.8 is the same thing. So either of these formulas will give you the same answer. Kelvin is degrees Celsius plus 273.15. Okay, so you can convert from Kelvin to Celsius and Celsius to Fahrenheit. And we're going to be doing both of those today. So which of these temperature scales has no negative numbers, A, B, or C? What do you think? A, correct, correct. Kelvin. All right.